All right, boys, here's a rundown of week two. The highest scorer was Team Furry Murray with 258.8 points. This was the second week in a row being the highest score. The lowest score was Hitler's Hillbillies with 118.6 points. Some matchup letdowns. For Ian, Alvin Kamara only had 7 points. Hilaire only had 2.6 points. Robbie Anderson only had 6.8 points, and his defense got him -1. For me, my entire team was under projections except Mahomes and Daryl Henderson, so my team was pretty fucking bad, but I still ended up beating Ian because he was the lowest scorer. Nick's letdowns were Jonathan Taylor only had 6.3 points, AJ Brown only had 7.3 points, Kittle had 5.7 points, and Antonio Brown had 2.7 points. For Adam, he only had two players that were under projections, and they were by a combined total of 4 points. So his team did really good last week. Boney had Dak, who only had 9 points. Gibson only had 9 points, and for Ben, he had Josh Allen, Joe Mixon, Saquon, and Amari Cooper, who are all under projections. And then for Zach, he had like no one on his team that was under projections. His team all did really good, and that's why he was the highest score and scored almost 260 points. And then lastly, Matt had Tyreek Hill, who had a dud game with only 6 points. And then Devontae Smith and Jarvis both had under 4 points at each of his flex spots. Next up is some bright spots or MVPs of each team. Ian had Lamar, who had 38.7 points on a big Monday night win. Sterling Shepard had 17.5 points on the Thursday night game against the football team. I had Mahomes, who had 37 points. Nick had Russell Wilson, who had 40.6 points. And Eckler and DJ Moore were both over projections for week two. Boltman's entire team was all really good, specifically Tom Brady, Kelsey, as they usually are. And then Cortland Sutton really stepped up in replacement for Jerry Jeudy. Boney had Aaron Jones, who had 4 touchdowns on Monday night this week. And then Devontae and James White had 8 points over his projection. James White had 8 points over his projection, and he started him at flex, which was, I didn't get it at first, but it ended up working out for him, and he got the win. Ben had Mike Williams, who had 22 points back-to-back weeks over 20, I believe. He's been really stepping up. As long as he doesn't get injured again this year, he should be a good, consistent play most of the season. Zach had everyone basically on his team was a bright spot. He only had one under projection, and that was Nick Chubb by 2 points, so he can't be mad about that. And then Matt's biggest bright spot, which I think was the biggest score of the week, was Derrick Henry with 55.7 points. He was a beast. Terry McLaurin had 30 points, and Mike Evans had 25 points for Matt. Some points left on the bench. Ian didn't really have much left on the bench. He started the best lineup he could, but he still lost. I had Gronk, who had 20 points on the bench over Jared Cook, who only had 6. Nick had Michael Pittman on the bench, who had 22 points. Adam had Julio on the bench, who had 20 points, and it could have been more, but that touchdown got called back against the Seahawks. He also had Marquise Brown, who had 26 points on his bench. Boney had Debo, who had 16 points on his bench. Devin Singletary, who had 19. Tony Pollard, who had 25 points, but Boney won, so it doesn't really matter. Ben had Marvin Jones on his bench, who had 17.5, and Zach Moss, who had 15.5. And then Zach had no one on his bench that he could have used as a replacement. Zach had the perfect lineup last week, so props to him. And then Matt had Henry Ruggs, who had almost 30 points on his bench. Looking ahead for week 3, every match is either 2-0, 2-0 teams or 2-0-2 teams. So somebody's going to get wins and losses unless somebody, I mean, there might be 2 teams that stay perfect, but we'll see. Or actually, they have to stay perfect. And then some headlines for just players. Brady plays the Rams. We'll see how that goes. His first tough defense of the year. Dalvin Cook is hurt. We'll see if he ends up playing on Sunday. Can Cortland Sutton keep up his success for Boltman in replacement for Jerry Jeudy? For me, DeAndre Hopkins is a game time decision, so if he doesn't end up playing, I might be screwed. I am going to play Gronk this week too against the Rams, and hopefully he keeps up that 2 touchdown per game pace. I doubt he will, but we'll see. Russell Wilson's been very successful for these first 2 games, but we all know that he's a beast in the first half of the season and it kind of falters off after. Nick's also starting Myles Gaskin at flex this week, which is interesting. Ian's starting Mike Davis as his RB2 this week. And then he's putting Hilaire and Boyd at his flex. Ian also has Will Fuller back, but he has him on the bench this week, which I don't blame him because we don't know how he's going to perform in that offense, especially with Tua out. Saquon, we'll see if Saquon, Josh Allen, and Amari Cooper can all bounce back for Ben. They should. They're all big names who have the potential to put up 30 points. Mike Williams hopefully can keep it up for Ben. I think he'll be great all season as long as he doesn't get hurt, like I said earlier. Odell is back for Ben, but on his bench, coming off that torn ACL. Ben's also starting Josh Allen over Hurts this week as of right now, which Hurts I think is projected more actually and has more favorable matchup, but we'll see. For Matt, Stafford is playing the Buccaneers, who probably have the best defense in the league, arguably. So we'll see if Stafford can step up to the plate. Matt is also starting Henry Ruggs at flex this week, who, I mean, he has the potential for big plays, but also he can only put up like 2 points depending on how the game script is. Matt also has Jarvis, who is on IR now. For Zach, he's pretty much got the front runner for MVP in the league with Kyler Murray, who's putting up like 50 points a week. Cooper Kupp, who's been a beast this year, is going against a tough Tampa defense. And then Tyler Lockett, if he can keep up the success, because we all know last year Tyler Lockett was like a top 15 receiver, but it's because of like 3 big weeks, and he's already had 2 big weeks, so is that going to be the end of it for this season? And then Brandon Cooks is looking like a surefire wide receiver 1 for Zach. We'll see if he can keep it up. On Thursday night yesterday, he really did good again. And then for Boney, we'll see if Dak and Antonio Gibson can come back and have good games. And then hopefully Aaron Jones and Devontae can keep it up against San Fran on Sunday night. And then, looking ahead to, there's not really rivals this week. I mean, last week we had Adam and Nick, but I don't see really much of like, we'll see as the season goes, like how teams play each other. And then lastly, the lowest score to win for week 2 was me with 128.2 points, beating Ian, and the highest score to lose was Matt with 184.4 points. And then I'm just going to post the standings going into week 3 and the week 3 matchups at the end of this. All right, good luck, boys.